All right, so we're starting U squared, guys. This is the book, shortest book we're going to read of all time, but it's a heavy hitter. They condensed basically the best knowledge from almost every single book into something as short as you could possibly get it, right? So we're just walking away with the meat of everything. If there's ever a book that you need to read and buy and just every month, just check it out because it's such a quick read, I'd probably recommend this one. Just too good. Constantly reaffirm what you're doing and why you're doing it and how to do it. Okay, so we'll start on page 5. It says, most people operate with a mindset that assumes success comes one step at a time. The unspoken but popular notion is that we must move systematically from our present level of achievement to the next. Then, let me start this. Okay, it is start. Okay, then the thinking goes, from that stage, we can begin working toward graduating to still the next higher level in the sequence, gradual progress. And then they have a little blurb here at the bottom. It says, U squared implies an explosive jump in your personal performance that puts you far beyond the next logical step. This is an unfortunate misconception and is clearly reflected in the way people function. They go about day to day striving to make incremental gains in their performance. That's pretty routine. That's the pathway of conventional growth. But your life simply does not always have to operate that way. Advancing at a measured pace, step by step, from where you are to a little bit better, ordinarily feels easier, more natural, and even safer. But in certain areas of your life, you can just as easily think in terms of skipping levels. You can move from one present level of achievement to one that is several stages higher. Directly, you make the quantum leap. You become U squared. Instead of accepting present circumstances or being content with gradual improvement, you go for a breakthrough. U squared implies an explosive jump in your personal performance that puts you far beyond the next logical step. It's a formula for stunning advances in achievement and the realization of your dreams. The concept is one of exponential gains rather than incremental progress. You might compare it to multiplying instead of adding. It means a geometric progression in your effectiveness. That's exciting as well as provocative, but it gets even better. Remember, quantum leaps can come without apparent effort. These are high velocity moves that carry you dramatically, higher performance levels without a time-consuming struggle. Quantum leaps seem to violate common sense utterly. The idea of moving to a higher orbit and skipping several rungs on the achievement ladder in the process strikes people as far-fetched, maybe even outrageous. After the fact, quantum leaps may be viewed as practical, sensible, even obvious moves, but they typically do not come to you as the obvious moves at the moment. Usually, it's in retrospect that you perceive their hidden logic and elegance. Invariably, quantum leaps are not complex or intricate maneuvers. They tend to be simple, energy efficient, and time-saving. U squared, the quantum leap strategy, can deliver those special dreams and ambitions that you instinctively feel should be yours. But the breakthrough demands a radical departure from some of your habits. Okay, and then this next portion, so they're just priming us for what it's about to say. And it says, the next chapter is change your personal rules for success. Leveraging up your personal effectiveness by an order of magnitude, going from U to U squared, is not a commonplace idea. You should not be surprised to hear that unconventional success calls for unconventional approaches. Quantum leaps require paradoxical behavior, unusual moves, actions that on the surface often seem to contradict common sense. As human beings, though, we ordinarily go with the obvious. We fall into the habit of relying on behaviors that seem to have worked best for us over the years. When we take an approach that seems to be very serviceable and which enables us to perform well and succeed, we become very attached to it. We don't readily relinquish the habit pattern. In fact, there's a tendency to follow our favorite approach more and more often, such that we get better and better at handling things that particular way. This adroitness with a certain approach results in our overdependence on strategies and tactics it involves. We resist new maneuvers because they make us feel clumsy, awkward, and more at risk. But if you want to accelerate the rate of achievement rapidly, you must search out and vigorously employ new behaviors, new attitudes. You must be willing to break out of your routines in order to make a quantum leap. The things that worked for you in the past very likely could, sooner or later, lose their serviceability, even if your customary approach still holds promise for maintaining your present level of performance and growth curve. It may not help much if you want to hit a far higher achievement level. And if you continue to rely on those old routines, maybe even leaning on them, most when your performance flattens out or sags, you create a trap for yourself. There's a certain irony here. Your historically most dependent or most dependable behaviors can become the major obstacles to future successes. It's possible for them to cripple your progress. They may stand as personal boundary lines that limit what you can accomplish with your life. There is, however, another course of action. It's the way of the quantum leap, U squared. So it says the following chapters explain the peculiar strategy involved. Okay, and we get into the first meaty part of this. So that was basically the pros, the beginning. So quit trying harder. It says quantum leaps cannot be achieved through incremental steps or through more of the same. You got to shift gears. You have to follow new patterns of thought and action. The rules of what works and what doesn't always change when you're trying to make a move from normal performance to U squared. Stop and think about it. Here's the way it goes. More of the same usually just gives you more of the same. Of course, if it's mainly what you're after, fine. Try a little harder and get a little bigger payoff. Try a lot harder and you can expect a lot better results, right? Well, possibly, but it's definitely not a sure thing. Sooner or later, you're going to have to reach a point where you can't try any harder. It may be your spirit flags or that your physical and mental resources are stretched to the limit. And often, well before you come to that set of circumstances, you reach a point of diminishing return. Trying harder and harder starts producing less and less. Sometimes, in fact, intensifying your effort produces nothing except bigger problems. As a case in point, go back to the story of the fly. That little insect could have turned away from the window 180 degrees and followed the path of least resistance as it flew to the open door. A quantum leap to freedom. 10 seconds of effortless flight would have produced total success, while hours of frustration and panic spent beating its wings against the glass were destined to end fruitlessly in a death on a dusty windowsill. Now, this is not an argument against self-discipline or persistence. Those are true virtues. Over a lifetime, they can make a powerful contribution to success and achievement. They are fundamental to the development of your talents. It's extremely important to apply yourself diligently, and sometimes staying power is what delivers a big win. But ordinarily, you will find that trying harder produces only incremental gains, not quantum leaps. Also keep in mind that trying harder, even a lot harder, sometimes offers little more than a straight path to burnout. Attempting to succeed through more of the same, being resolute and relying on committed effort can blind you to better pathways. If you want to make a quantum leap, quit thinking about trying harder. More effort isn't the answer. And it says, ignore conventional approaches. Get ruthless about trying something different. Ordinarily, we achieve conventional growth because we think along conventional lines. We experience reasonable performance gains because we rely on reasonable approaches. We find ways to make modest improvements in our level of success because we go looking for nothing more. Quantum leaps require you to abandon the status quo. Instead of once again trying what you already have done, maybe with even more intensity and determination, ignore the usual. U squared requires an abrupt change in behavior. Look for a paradoxical move. For example, consider reversing your field. Try being illogical. Ricochet. If you're trying to climb over the wall, open a door and walk through. If you're pushing against a river, try going against the flow, or going with the flow, Use finesse instead of effort. You must do something new. The tendency when you stall out or begin to level off in your performance is to go back to the basics and do what you do best. But doing what you do best can be the worst thing you can do. It really doesn't matter how well you can do something if it's the wrong thing to do. And that is key. Faith in the familiar sets the trap, and you spring it when you reinvest yourself in what logically seems like should work because it usually worked in the past. To make a quantum leap, you've got to break out of the rut where you've been running, second guess your routines, overcome the addiction to your old mythologies, set a new pattern. If the things you're doing have quit working, stop doing them. Focus on what works. If you'll just quit what you've been doing instead of doggedly doing it harder, you at least create an opportunity, some white space to do something else. Quantum leaps come when you seek the elegant solution. So look for an approach characterized by simplicity, precision, efficiency, neatness. It won't be as complex or time-consuming as your present struggle. Overall, it will be less demanding of your energies and emotions, and it will probably not be familiar to you. U squared calls for a fresh perspective, a deft move, a path of least resistance. There is a way you can do more with less. So basically, if you're starting to get the idea, it's not falling into the whole creature of habit mentality where you get comfortable with a set of principles that you've built up over time. Say you're a really good hard worker at whatever factory job and you got to know the assembly line really well and you're just content there making the same amount of money. And if you just work a little harder and show that you could assemble things a little bit faster, maybe you'll get a little bit more hours and then you get a little bit more money. But the real logical move, it's illogical actually. The illogical move is to jump off the factory line and make a case maybe to your boss why you should be managing the whole assembly line because you're the best person there that knows how it works in and out. So most people go through this gradual gain of I'll work a little bit harder and I'll get my little pay raise at the end of the year, every year. And I'll show the boss that I can do more and I deserve more hours. But no one makes that leap of, you know what, I'm just the guy on the assembly line, but I think I got what it takes to be managing or supervising the line. You know what, why don't I put in this application for this position? Why don't I go say hello to the boss and tell him how much I appreciate this opportunity and I'm ready for more? Most people don't make those moves. Or say you're stuck at a dead end job that's giving you like a cushy paycheck, but it's dead end. You have no purpose. You don't know where you're going in life, but maybe you have an inkling of what you want to do. And you've been avoiding doing that thing because you think it may be harder to get away from the steady paycheck that's keeping you trapped, that habitual pattern that you're in, because you know you're doing the thing that you've always done, getting the thing you've always got, the steady paycheck. That's the trap. Instead of what you should have done is quit that job and go do whatever it was that, is your soul's burning desire. Maybe it was to go learn to do God knows what, start your own business or the side hustle or an online store. You've had an idea in your mind of something that you've been wanting to do, something you may be good at, something that you have a unique skill for, but you're stuck in the pattern of safe, comfortable, consistent. And you may find that starting a business is far less work than busting your ass 12 hours a day, every shift on that assembly line, with your back broken, coming home super exhausted, making pennies on the dollar, right? That may be, for you in your mind, a safer choice, but it's actually far scarier long-term for your health than it is starting that business and maybe floundering here and there, a couple bad months, a little downturn here and there, but ultimately you succeed if you keep at it. If you apply 100% of time and effort into your business, you will eventually succeed. That's the winning formula. Time plus effort equals success. If you were to make like a little famous formula of that, and you could tell equals success, if someone puts in a lot of time but very little effort, they get nowhere. Vice versa. You need time and effort. And typically you get to the success point the more you put into each. So if you put in a ton of time and a ton of effort in something, you reach success much faster than someone that puts in a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, or a ton of effort and a little bit of time, or a little bit or a lot of time and a bit kind of medium effort. You will reach the level of success. You'll equalize to success faster if you max both out. Now, people are stuck in the comfort traps of life or the conventional thinking of, let me get 1% better than yesterday. That's good for things like, health. Your body has a slow rate of change. So when we say be 1% better than yesterday, what we're saying is like, make sure you're eating clean every day, a little better than yesterday. Make sure you're getting your walk. Make sure you're going on your run if that's what you do, or rock climbing or hiking or all that, because your body has a slow rate of change. There's nothing you can't make a lateral move and skip a few steps. That's what we're talking about when we say be 1% better. But being 1% better yesterday does not apply to work, doesn't apply to your career, finances, right? These require paradoxical moves like the book is talking about. For example, a whole lateral move into another field you didn't think you were primed for. For example, I was in college and I was studying to be either a lawyer or a dentist, and then I ended up getting hired at a water filtration company, and they made me the head of the division for like 3 different cities. I had a good position with decent pay. That had been a completely irrelevant part of what I was studying in school. That's a lateral move. I only got that job because I thought, hey, I'm kind of sick of bartending. I'm sick of serving alcohol. I'm sick of closing down the bar at 4 or 5 in the morning, coming home absolutely exhausted, not having weekends. Why don't I try something different? I could have stayed at the bar and served even more, got more tips, worked the weekdays as well, not just weekend. I could have worked exponentially harder for those diminishing returns, but instead made a whole lateral move into a whole nother industry and ended up getting the same pay or more for far less effort. But it's not a choice that kind of hits you in front of your face, because it's safe to stay at my bartending job. I already know how much I earn every weekend night. I already know the people that are coming in. I already know my position's secure. I already know what to do and how to mix drinks. It's easy. It's comfortable. It's what I know, right? Moving to that other company, your brain does that thing. Like, what if I fail? What if this doesn't work out? What if the pay, blah, blah, blah. You can go in a million directions and you stop yourself. But the point is, life will reward people that make these bold decisions. A simple one that you can think of is like guys that are moving overseas, for example, will tell you. They'll say shit like, this was the best decision of my life. It completely changed everything in how I view the world and the amount of money I save, and I get to live now. That's a lateral move that not many people make. But again, it's a very, You can call it an extreme example, but it's a paradoxical move because no one thinks of moving to a completely different country to better their life. That sounds weird. It's illogical to say that, right? But that's what happens. And that's what we're discussing a lot of times when we do the Passport Bro stuff. That's just, the beginning of this book that we're primed for. I'll leave it open forum now for you guys. Jump in. Feel free or talk openly about anything if you guys want to close it out here on the book. Welcome in to everybody that's been listening.
Yo,